We'll call the city council meeting to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Vining.
Here.
Germaine.
Excused.
Lamore.
Present.
Felder.
Excused.
Hayter.
Here.
Stillgrave.
Here.
Mayor Clark.
Here, I ask you all please rise for the invocation. Remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Grant us to manage the challenges ahead and the wisdom to identify opportunities as we strive to serve our community. As we make decisions, grant us the gift of an open mind, the willingness to learn, and the humility to accept the ideas of others.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, first item, please.
The first item is the approval of the regular agenda.
Thank you. Manager Robinson, any additions or amendments to the agenda from yourself?
The administration has no additions or amendments.
Any questions or comments from council on the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda as written.
Motion by Councilman Lamore, supported by Councilman Hayter to approve the agenda. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Vining.
Yes.
Lamore.
Yes.
Hayter.
Yes.
Stillgrave. Mayor Clark.
Yes. Next item, please.
The next item is the consent agenda, and for approval of payments, the amount should read $2,121,546.40.
Thank you. Are there any items on the consent agenda that council wishes to have pulled for further discussion? Any of the items on the consent agenda? Seeing none. Is there any items on the consent agenda those present here this evening wish to have pulled for further discussion? I see if maybe some additional people. I mean, in the past, what this means is items on the consent agenda, if will be approved, if a motion was made by council and second, it could be approved. All those items on the consent will be approved at one time. If there's an item of one of the three items on the consent agenda or the finances or work session you wish to have discussion about, now's the opportunity to ask to have it pulled, and then we'll have a discussion if there's questions. Seeing none from those present. Councilman
Make a
Lamore.
motion to approve the consent agenda in all of its actions and have the clerk record all of the actions that take place under the consent agenda.
Motion by Councilman Lamore, supported by Councilwoman Stillgrave, that all items on the consent agenda be accepted, placed on file. Recommendations carried out and resolutions adopted. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Vining. Yes. Lamore.
Yes.
Hayter. Stillgrave. Mayor Clark.
Yes. Next item, please.
The next item is under presentations, communications, and public hearings, item 4820, CDBG Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, public hearing, and there are no comments on file in the clerk's office.
Thank you. City Manager Robinson, is there any additions to this before I call the public hearing?
We would like to have Caitlin McBriarty from our Economic Development Office. She'd like to give a short presentation regarding this item prior to the public hearing.
Thank you. Evening, Caitlin.
Good evening, Mayor Clark, and Council. The Consolidated Annual Performance Evaluation Report, the CAPER, is a yearly report that shows the city's accomplishments towards meeting the goals and objectives outlined in our 5-year Community Development Block Grant CDBG program. So just a few notes from the 23-24 program year. The city spent just over $320,000 on programs to assist low and moderate income persons through partnerships with MCOP and Legal Services of South Central Michigan. These funds helped 3 homeowners rehabilitate their homes. An estimated 2,700 residents benefited from alley reconstruction and now have improved access to roadways. A Youth Careers Pathway program was held by MCOP at the ALCC last summer and this summer. This program taught teens about career opportunities, job training, and entrepreneurship, as well as good health habits, educational skills. There were 39 youth who participated in this program. CDBG funds were used to assist 100 households and 240 persons to receive legal assistance to prevent foreclosure or eviction. through Legal Services of South Central Michigan. Overall, their program assisted 371 residents in 156 households. Over the last year, the CDBG program has provided assistance to city residents in need, and we look forward to continuing the work this program year. If there's any questions, I'm happy to address.
Any questions for Caitlin from the council members? Councilwoman Viney?
For legal services.
Yes, so with CDBG funds, we assisted 100 households for a total of 241 people. But overall, their program assisted 156 households and 371 people.
That sounds like that went up a lot.
Yes. Yes, yeah. We usually we're closer to that 100 mark, but it seems this year there was definitely an increase.
Did we put more money in that item?
So we did continue to do the $10,000, which is roughly $100 a case. So we budgeted, and they requested the money for 100 households for this year.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions or comments for Caitlin? Thank you, Caitlin. Appreciate the report.
Thank you.
And at this time, I will open the public hearing. Public hearing, this CDBG Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, CAPER, public hearing to receive and review any comments this evening. Any comments from those present here this evening for the public comment? Any public comments? Seeing none, close the public hearing. Clerk?
The next item is item 4887, public hearing for proposed ordinance 24-007, chapter 288, demolition standards and specifications, and there are no comments on file in the clerk treasurer's office.
Thank you. Manager Robinson, any additional information prior to the public hearing?
We don't have any additional information to add.
And I know this item was on previous work sessions and discussion for council. So at this time, any comments from council for the public hearing? If not, I'll open the public hearing on item 4887, public hearing for proposed ordinance 24-007, chapter 288, the demolition standards and specifications. Any comments from those present here this evening regarding this public hearing? Seeing no comments, close the public hearing. Clerk, next item, please.
The next item is item 4890, public hearing to receive and review comments on proposed ordinance 24-008, rezoning of 709 Detroit Avenue, and there are no comments on file in the clerk treasurer's office.
Thank you. Manager Robinson, anything additional? I know we've had previous discussions at previous meetings and work session.
We have no additional information that we have yet provided.
Very good. The public hearing. I'll open the public hearing on item 4890, public hearing proposed ordinance 24-008 regarding rezoning of 709 Detroit Avenue. Any questions or comments from those present here this evening for this public hearing? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Clerk, next item, please.
The next item is 4891, public hearing to receive and review comments on proposed ordinance 24-009, rezoning of 814 North Macomb Street, and there are no comments on file in the clerk's office.
Thank you. Again, Manager Robinson, anything additional? Again, we've had this at our previous meetings as well as the work session.
The administration has no further information.
Okay, at this time, I'll open the public hearing on item 4891. Public hearing proposed ordinance 24-009, rezoning of 814 North Macomb Street. Any comments from those present here this evening for this public comment? No comments or questions? Close the public hearing. Clerk, next item, please.
The next item is 4885, free building permit week outcomes report.
Manager Robinson, I see someone's coming
Yes,
forward.
Your
Must be
Honor,
a
I'd like
presentation.
our building and zoning official, Lauren Bennis, to report out on the outcomes of this year's program.
Thank you. Welcome, Lauren.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, Manager Robinson, Clerk Lavoy. I'm Lauren Bennis. I'm the City of Monroe Building Zoning Official. I'd first like to take a minute to thank you for all your support in our efforts to create a more proactive environment within the City Building Zoning Department by approving the permitted refund initiative in May. I'll briefly go through some of the statistics that were involved in that. There were 40 total building permits applied for and issued, with a construction value of $267,500. $181,122 were building. 18 zoning permits were $86,378. The fees collected for the 22 building permits that were issued were $7,221. 18 zoning permits were $2,548 for a total of $9,769. There were 22 permit holders that took advantage of the permit refund incentive program. 15 of those were building permits refunded to a total of $5,353. 18 of them were zoning permits that were refunded for a total of $1,175. And then there were $1,500 worth of non-refundable application fees. So the total return fees on that was $5,028. There were 18 permits that didn't qualify for the initiative due to incompletion or not receiving their final inspections. The total permit fees that were not returned to permit holders was $4,741. There were 18 permit holders that did not receive the benefit of a refund, which shows about 50% of all who applied for permits showed initiative to finish the work or to request their permit refunds. I believe that with your support and more community awareness, we can increase this number even more. This program is not only helping by saving people money on permits, it is also increasing exposure and promoting our department as a reliable source of information and assistance.
Thanks, Lauren. Any questions from the council for Lauren? Brian, or Councilman Lamore?
Warren, obviously, I support this program wholeheartedly. I think it helps
Thank you.
our residents. And I mean, of the 50%, they didn't get it completed because they didn't have enough time, or just,
We put a 90-day window on the refunds themselves. Generally, the permit's good for 180 days, so the permit is still good and effective. It just didn't qualify for the permit refunds.
okay. All right. It's just, do we need to extend it further to help them out a little bit more?
I think more community awareness in the front of, in the head of everything, to let them know that, maybe a little bit more time in advance to say, hey, you have 90 days. I think that might spur some.
Did we have this in the newsletter or our online newsletter? We did, okay,
It was kind of short notice, but it was in the newsletter, yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And maybe do we have kind of a date line picked out for next year already?
With your support and with approval from council and administration, I would love to do it again. Because it doesn't really put a burden on the building department per se. It just kind of gives people the incentive to, beautify their homes and take care of some things.
Well, it improves the property values too.
Correct.
So, and the tax values, obviously, the taxable values go up as well. But I'd be full in support of that, obviously, and I think the rest of council would agree with me on that. And getting it out there a little bit earlier so that people can plan ahead, maybe save up a little bit and say, hey, we're going to make that improvement this time of year just to save on the permit fees. That could be well worth it. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's something we need to strike up and get an initiative on as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other council comments? Councilwoman Vining?
Yes, Mr. Lauren, I thought it was a great idea. I don't know who came up with it, but I thought it was a really good incentive. And I tried to get the word out myself, shared it on social media. That's where I ran across the information, was on the city's, one of their social medias. Would there be a reason why we wouldn't make it the full extent of the permit? I'm just curious.
Well, the only thing is that I would concur to the fact is that it's an initiative. It's a, it's kind of a bonus thing, if you will. And I think the key to that is, like Councilman Lamore stated, is if we get it out earlier, people might might be able to partake in it a little better. I know that it's been going, last time I think it was tried was in 2005, where it was here in the city. So it kind of came back maybe as a surprise to some people.
For those 22 people, and I think that was a great initiative to put forth for the residents. And I think the building department is doing a great job.
Council? I'll just add, I think it's a great program as well. I'm glad we started it. I think just as was discussed, as we pick the time frame for next year and how do we step that out ahead of time. Some people may have taken the advantage of, I can get this done, and they realized I need planning time before I do the project I was going to do. They're not out anything. I mean, they do pay for the permit and stuff, but they still have that additional time to finish the project, so they're not out everything. Hopefully, they'll be able to complete those projects and get them inspected within the time frame the permits allotted for. So I think it's a great program and look forward to next year seeing it again. Thanks, Lauren.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your time.
Clerk, next item, please.
The next item is item 4847, Halloween trick or treat, October 31st, 2024.
I guess I'll just talk to it
This is your
because it's an item that comes to the council. We do this every year, and the idea is, why do you have Halloween trick or treat? Well, it is October 31st, and somebody says, well, everybody knows that, but it's a time frame to 6 to 8 p.m. So we coordinate with other jurisdictions that join us, whether it be Frenchtown Township or Monroe Township. So people, families, kids aren't running all over I'll say different places, but this way it's consolidates it. People know when it is, and we haven't changed dates. And I know the one year it snowed and got calls the day before, you're going to change the date. And the answer was, no, we're not. I think people can make responsible choices for their children and make sure they're safe, but also appropriate weather. So we have it once a year, and it's the date of, but it's from 6 to 8 p.m. So I just like to make that announcement again. It all goes out in the social media and from the city's webpage as well. Clerk, next item, please.
The next item is under council action, item 4867, proposed ordinance 24-006, up for its final reading.
Any final comments, Manager Robinson? Again, I know we had a reading and public hearing previously.
We do not have any further comments on this ordinance.
Recall in ordinance 24-006 is a zoning item related to the Battlefield District, now the Historic Corridor District. Any comments from council? Councilwoman Stilgrave?
That's motion, Your Honor.
Sounds good.
Move to place proposed ordinance 24-006 on the floor for its final reading.
Second.
Motion by Councilwoman Stilgrave, supported by Councilman Lamore on item 4867, proposed ordinance 24-006, up for its final reading. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Vining?
Yes.
Lamore?
Yes.
Hayter?
Yes.
Stilgrave? Mayor Clark?
Yes.
Ordinance 24-006, Chapter 720, zoning, an ordinance to amend Section 2 zoning districts of Chapter 720 of the Code of the City of Monroe. The City of Monroe ordains.
Shall this ordinance pass?
Councilperson Vining?
Yes.
Lamore?
Yes.
Hayter? Stilgrave? Mayor Clark?
Yes. Clerk, next item, please.
The next item is 4866, proposed ordinance 24-007, up for its final reading.
Administration has no further information on the demolition requirements and standards ordinance.
Okay, any comments from Councilman Hayter?
No comment, just motion to place proposed ordinance 24-007 on the floor for its final reading.
Motion by Councilman Hayter, supported by Councilman Lamore. Item 4866, proposed ordinance 24-007, up for its final reading. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Vining?
Yes.
Lamore?
Yes.
Hayter? Stilgrave?
Yes.
Mayor Clark?
Yes.
Ordinance 24-007, Chapter 288, demolition requirements and standards. An ordinance to amend an ordinance to add Chapter 288, demolition requirements and standards of the Code of the City of Monroe. The City of Monroe ordains.
Shall this ordinance pass?
Councilperson Vining?
Yes.
Lamore?
Yes.
Hayter? Stilgrave?
Yes.
Mayor Clark?
Yes. Next item, please.
The next item is proposed ordinance 24-008, up for its first reading and setting the final reading.
Manager Robinson, any additional comments on this?
I have no additional comments on this.
Either from council, if not, a motion. And Councilman Lamore?
Thank you, Your Honor. I make a motion that proposed ordinance 24-008 be placed on the floor for its first reading, and that the final reading be scheduled for October 7th, 2024.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Lamore, supported by Councilwoman Stillgrave on item 4892, proposed ordinance 24-008, up for its first reading and to set the final reading. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Vining?
Yes.
Lamore?
Yes.
Hayter? Stillgrave?
Yes.
Mayor Clark?
Yes.
Ordinance 24-008, Chapter 720 zoning, an ordinance to amend the zoning map of Chapter 720 zoning of the Code of the City of Monroe.
The final reading, I usually say it before, but the final reading is being set for October 7th, 2024. Thank you.
The next item is item 4893, proposed ordinance 24-009, up for its first reading and setting the final reading.
Comments?
Yes, the administration has no further information to provide, other than, and I probably should have mentioned it in the other zoning ordinance updates, that they have gone in front of the City Planning Commission, and they had also recommended for council to, so there was more of a process, just reminding everyone that it did go in front of the Planning Commission as well.
Very well. Any other comments from council? Councilwoman Stillgrave.
Your Honor, I make the motion to, that the proposed ordinance 24-009 be placed on the floor for its first reading and the final reading be scheduled for October 7th, 2024.
Support.
There's a motion by Councilwoman Stillgrave, supported by Councilman Hayter on item 4893. Proposed ordinance 24-009 up for its first reading and set the final reading. Clerk, please call the roll.
Vining? Lamore?
Yes.
Hayter? Stillgrave?
Yes.
Mayor Clark?
Yes.
Ordinance 24-009, Chapter 720 zoning, an ordinance to amend the zoning map of Chapter 720 zoning of the Code of the City of Monroe.
Thank you. Next item, please.
I seem to have run out of voting sheets.
Oh.
Oh dear. Doesn't mean we're done though, right? Item 4886, consideration of the DDA board recommendation for EV charging stations, parking violation fine.
Manager Robinson.
I'd like to invite Assistant City Manager, Economic Development Director to lead the discussion regarding the DDA board recommendation for EV charging station parking violation fines.
Thank you. Mr. Cochran.
Honorable Mayor, City Council, Clerk Lavoy. So this evening, I'm presenting a recommendation that was adopted by the DDA at their meeting on August 21st. As many are aware, the DDA purchased and installed 2 EV charging stations that accommodate up to 4 vehicles at a time in the riverfront parking lot on West Front Street. An issue that we've run into, and I will say the usage has been quite impressive since they were installed. A lot of people have been using them, which is great. That was the purpose for what they were installed for. And the DDA has also started charging for the usage of that, and we've been monitoring both the electricity costs as well as the revenue that have been brought in with the EV charging stations. However, we've run into a couple of issues. The EV charging stations themselves are managed by ChargePoint, which is a subscription that the DDA subscribes to, and they manage the charging stations. If a vehicle is fully charged and remains there after the charging and remains plugged in to the EV charging station, ChargePoint will automatically start charging the vehicle owner $5 an hour for remaining in the spot while plugged in. The intent behind this is to encourage people to charge their vehicle and move it to another spot to allow other users to utilize the charging station. Once people caught on to that, another issue that we've had is people will just go and unplug their vehicle and not move it. And therefore, ChargePoint can't charge them for remaining in the spot. And it continues to take up the spot, prohibiting other people to use it. And so at the DDA, The Downtown Development Authority discussion was held about how to remedy the situation, and a recommendation was made asking City Council to consider a resolution that would designate public EV charging stations as parking only for electric vehicles and prohibit vehicles who are either not plugged in or not electric vehicles from parking in those 4 parking spaces. And so the resolution tonight, if council considers parking in a parking space outside of that regulated use would result in a 1-hour parking citation, similar to the parking schedule or a parking violation fine schedule that City Council adopts every year as part of the annual budget process. So going forward after this year, we'll update that annually in the city's budget to reflect that citation amount, but also we do intend working with the clerk's office. We've identified some other places in the parking ordinance that need to be updated. And so we'll be bringing some recommendations to City Council about several different updates to that, especially related to EV charging. And so with council's support, the DDA, you'll see the resolution that's included in this evening's packet that would make that enforceable. And we did consult with Director Tolstad and the Public Safety Department regarding the logistics with monitoring and enforcing the new resolution as well.
Thank you. Any comments from council for Mr. Cochran? Councilman Lamore?
Just one. Right, so if they leave it parked there and it's still, basically, it's fully charged.
Yeah.
They're gonna get charged that extra $5 an hour. Plus, we're gonna ticket them the $20 fine, correct me if I have the 1-hour violation.
No, so we'll only enforce this if there's a vehicle that's not plugged in in the parking space.
Only if it's not plugged in.
Yeah, if it's plugged in, ChargePoint will automatically charge.
So that's gonna be their fine that way.
yeah,
I
yep.
gotcha.
But
Perfect.
they can't charge if it's not plugged in.
Thank you.
Other comments? If not, then the motion be, Councilman Hayter.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move to approve the resolution to establish a fine for parking in EV charging station spaces without being connected to the charging station and establish the fine consistent to a 1-hour parking violation fine as adopted in the annual budget ordinance of the city.
Support.
By Councilman Hayter, supported by Councilman Lamore. On item 4886, the consideration of the DDA board recommendation for EV charging stations and the parking violation fine. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Vining? Yes. Lamore?
Yes.
Hayter?
Yes.
Steelgrave?
Yes.
Mayor Clark?
Yes. And before we move forward, I want to thank the Downtown Development Authority for their weighing in on this matter. Of course, they are the ones that were why we have EV stations and keep them engaged and involved of the progress of how this goes. And of course, it impacts all of their businesses downtown when they're others aren't able to take advantage of the same use. And we've received a couple calls how they had to wait. So, clerk, next item, please.
The next item is item 4883, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration Grant Agreement Acceptance.
Thank you. Manager Robinson.
Yes, Your Honor, I'd like to invite Director Leroy to give some details and background on this, on the acceptance of this grant and its agreement.
Mayor and Council, Barry Leroy, Director of Water and Wastewater Utilities for the City of Monroe. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or let's go with NOAA, is their common acronym. We've applied for a grant to remove dam number 4. It's behind the post office, and that has an active sewer in it. That is the plan with this grant. The background on why we applied for that is there's rock arch ramps that were put in back in between 2012 and 2014 to promote fish habitat to migrate upstream as part of our area concern. So this is a ongoing monitoring process with our area concern, but to keep that functional, we monitor that with the Commission on Environment and Water Quality. So in 2020, we noticed that rock arch ramp started moving, and at this point, it's really not functional during lower flows. And so in order to reestablish that, we've been engaged with Department of Eagle, the Michigan DNR, as well as US EPA and the Army Corps of Engineers. So it's been a lot of partnerships, and we've been working through options. And we got to the point where it made more sense and cost effective to actually remove the dam and reroute the sanitary sewer, and in coordinating it with the Parks and Rec Department into the western end of St. Mary's Park, the sanitary sewer. So that is a little background. There's more details on that, but at this point, we're earmarked for $3 million to engage a consultant for designing, analysis, and construction administration of the grant. And then there's about 1.8 of that 3 million is for construction costs to remove the dam and reroute the sewer. So that's some general background. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions.
I'll take questions, but one aspect of the grant, if you said I missed it, but this is a non-federal match requirement, so there is no match by the
Yeah, it's
city.
no
So it's
match.
$3 million to take care of another yet item that inhibits wildlife passage of fish, but also the free flow of the river that's currently in its, from the past work. That particular dam did have the rock placements, and nature is a force, and sometimes while we put things in, they don't seem to care that it's there. So this will alleviate those problems and maintain it open ability for fish passage, but also for recreational use.
Absolutely.
That was my comment. I'll see if there's questions from Councilman Lamore.
Yeah, I've got several, just obviously because I am a participant right behind that dam. My first question is that going to affect the berm in any fashion or form by removal of that dam?
The bank along the river there. So the water level will change. That's part of the analysis part and permitting that we'll have to go through. We will, on that north side of the river, we'll have to reroute the sewer through that bank and then reestablish that. So that'll be part of that project.
Okay, I'm just a little concerned because I know that it is, it's an older berm. It's not exactly in the greatest shape. And I know that it's been compromised further west where the berm starts at. Because that's typically when the floodwaters come into the backyards, that's where it goes in first.
We'll have to reestablish that so it's stable. So that way we'll mitigate erosion with whatever we disturb. So that'll be part of that project cost.
And the boulders that are behind there, what's the state of those? Are those just going to be removed?
So the original grant was for $4.7 million. That was the grant application, I should say. That's in the packet that I know it's very long. It's like 60 some pages long. Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
But I wanted you to have all the details. But it's 4.7. So the additional 1.7, we're applying for grants actively for the environmental habitat restoration. So that is reutilizing those boulders and part of the dam material for because we have to create what's called backwater to kind of keep the water level as high as we can and to reinforce dam number 5, which is on the west side of the Sisters Island, to keep that stationary and build that up so that way that doesn't start to get affected by this work. So it will be reusing a lot of that material.
And how is this going to affect all the neighbors that live along the dam there?
As far
And
as
the post office and the neighbors across on the north side?
well, I mean, again, the water levels will recede a little bit.
No, I meant construction-wise.
Well, most of the work will be in the river. I don't know if you recall from 2013 and 14, most of the work they were staging that at the IHM River House and moving material back and forth in the river. So that would be the intent would be to utilize that same process when we put the construction documents together, but we're a little far off from that, but that would be the intent to stage in areas where we don't affect people's yards as much as possible.
And is there going to be any problem with intrusion upon the river? Because I know that a lot of the different entities have had some issues with us going in the river. Like, for instance, when we used to clean out the river with all the weeds that were in it, if you recall that. Now we just put in a chemical that takes and treats that. Is there going to be any problem with that, getting permits from EPA or anybody else like that?
For the invasive species, no, that won't be a problem. From a permit standpoint, that's a separate entity with Eagle. But as far as, because that just treats the watershed.
Right, no, I know.
But the other permits, yeah, we'll be working with the Army Corps and Eagle on that for that joint permit for that process.
Okay.
And the floodplain, That'll also, we'll have to do a letter of map amendment for any floodplain changes. But we're, again, when we get into the analysis part, we'll know if we don't know at this point if we have to do that.
Appreciate it.
Other questions or comments? You know that Councilman Laura is talking about because of the flowering rush and other invasive species. That was actually in our newsletter this past week. So, you know, it keeps people informed to report that and let us know when we have to take those actions. I think you answered the question I had about the reduced scope of work, and you applied that to what that part was. And for Councilman Lamore's I guess follow-up is right where the dam crosses the river, it'll extend then on the north side. I think it directly impacts, I should say, by space at 3 properties, and then it's going to go up through St. Mary's Park to adjoin to another sanitary gravity continuation, as I read the packet correctly, correct?
Yeah, it would be extending gravity flow into the park and then putting in a lift station to lift
Right.
the sewage and pump it downstream.
Right.
We'll get into the analysis of that to make sure we don't
Same
have any
thing.
capacity problems. Yep.
And there's the consideration for the residents as far as that restoration, but also even through the park and what might be planned there as they continue on to see as we move forward.
Yep.
Any questions or comments? If not, motion would be in order. Councilman Lamore.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll make a motion to accept the Department of Commerce NOAA grant agreement titled the River Raisin Dam Number 4 Removal and Restoration, the amount of $3,029,980, authorize city manager to affirm the agreement on behalf of the city of Monroe and authorize the finance director to amend the budget for the grant acceptance.
Okay. The motion by Councilman Moore, supported by Councilwoman Stilgrave on item 4883, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration Grant Agreement Acceptance. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Vining? Yes. Lamore?
Yes.
Hayter? Stilgrave?
Yes.
Mayor Clark?
Yes. Next item, please.
The next item is item 4854, County of Monroe and Monroe County Business Alliance ARPA Grant Agreement.
Thank you. Manager Robinson.
Yes, Your Honor. I will again bring Mr. Leroy up to explain the details of this agreement, but it is from the ARPA monies that for us to do improvements for I'd say our water system, to do the improvements on the Sunset Sewer Line.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. So the ARPA, County of Monroe and Monroe County Business Alliance ARPA grant agreement that's in front of you, it's part of the Monroe County Link Plan 2.0, and there were several, if you look through the plan, there's several projects earmarked for work in different communities, and Frenchtown was earmarked, and it just so happened to be in our corrective action plan area. So we submitted about 3 years worth of corrective action plan project work to in an attempt to speed up our corrective action plan work to open up capacity and to certify the system, but it'll also help target community system growth in that area as well. So the grant agreement outlines the details for the earmarked area, which is the Sunset Pump Station area. We are currently refining that. It'll likely be in the Woodland Beach area if this is accepted by Mayor and Council. But we would front the money through the wastewater system and then get reimbursed up to $750,000 for about 50% reimbursement on that.
Question from Mr. Leroy.
Thank you. The grant, I'm assuming, is 1.5 million. Is that what or 750? We match at 750.
Yes, it's a reimbursement of $750,000 out of the 1.5 million. So,
Okay.
Yep.
All right. And all of this is contained in Frenchtown Township, correct?
Yes, it's in the Sunset Pump Station service
Part of our
area.
wastewater system.
Yeah, the metropolitan system. Yes.
Thank you. That's all I need to know.
Other questions?
It'll
From the wastewater metropolitan system, for those that, for some additional information, it's a partnership between the city of Monroe that uses the city's wastewater, obviously department, but it's a partnership with Frenchtown Township and Monroe Township, and we have a board of 6. And of course, the Drain Commissioner also serves as the 7th vote if necessary. So just a good question. It is a reimbursement. So through the I'll say partners and the costs related to the wastewater program, those expenditures will be paid, and then the reimbursement comes back at the 50%. One other item I'll just speak to, I know that chance to speak with Manager Robinson. So the ARPA funds that the county has, that just like all of us communities that had ARPA funds, you have to allocate those by the end of this year. And then they have a time frame which it must be expended through 2026. So there's time frame. But this is one of those examples of funding that is about, with the LINK plan, about infrastructure improvements. And I know that throughout the county is also providing funding. As it comes to the end, by allocating it through the Business Alliance, it becomes then planned for and allocated that this project is, as opposed to getting to the end and finding out you have $1 million or $2 million supposedly that didn't get accounted for or allocated. And the last thing we want to do in a region of the county, and the cities allocated all their ARPA funds, is to make sure that it's in place to be spent. So that's one of the benefits of this, and it's available at the Wastewater Control Board. Will have to go to them to also approve. So this is the council's approval action, but it then goes to the Wastewater Control Authority for their action as well. So that's kind of the process. Councilman Hayter, do you have a question or a comment?
Nope.
Or a motion?
Motion.
Please do, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move to accept the County of Monroe and Monroe County Business Alliance ARPA grant agreement titled Frenchtown Tartar Township Project F1 Sunset Sewer Line Improvements. Authorize the wastewater director to sign the agreement on behalf of the city of Monroe, and authorize the finance director to amend the budget for the grant acceptance.
Motion by Councilman Hayter, supported by Councilwoman Stillgrave on item 4854, the County of Monroe and Monroe County Business Alliance ARPA grant agreement. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Vining?
Yes.
Lamore?
Yes.
Hayter? Stillgrave?
Yes.
Mayor Clark?
Yes.
I have no further items.
Okay. That's council comments. This is September. Councilman Vining, I have to count almost 6 and 3.
Should have had some comments since I get to go first.
Yes.
I don't have any comments this evening.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Councilman Lamore.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just one quick one. I want to thank Mr. James for applying and accepting the Tree Advisory Commission position that was open. He's one of the guys that walks the walk and talks the talk. So I appreciate you stepping up to the plate and coming over and helping us out. So thank you.
Councilman Hayter.
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Councilman Stillgrave.
I got nothing either.
Thank you. I guess that leaves it to me, right? I just have a couple of comments. They're mostly items that were on the consent agenda, and as I say, we passed those. So sometimes it's important to recognize what's in there, especially when just the last 2 items we have on the council action were about grant funds. You know, to leverage the for the Wastewater Control Authority and our partners, because it may be in Frenchtown, but it still impacts us because all that water, the I&I, we all pay for that through our system and our partnership. So this will be a significant improvement for that. The other one on the NOAA grant, where I think the history is shown the work was done well over a decade ago about the removal of the dams and what improvement that's made. You cannot go down to the river, the River Raisin now, and not see wildlife and fish and birds and all ducks, all the things are out there, plus people out there fishing and fly fishing. So I think the proof is there, and this will just make that equally as well. My last one, the Councilman Lamore mentioned, so we had an appointment. I always like to make recognition of boards and commissions because anybody has the ability within the city. We have some that are non-resident positions on our boards and commissions. And Mr. Elliott James has come here many times talking about items of importance. This particular Tree Advisory Commission isn't just about a neighborhood, it's about the entire community. But you bring forward items, and if anybody's watched our meetings or work sessions, know that there's an opportunity for that's in the works currently on the orchard, return to the orchards and the trees in the Orchard East. How do we plan that? Through the through the Tree Advisory Commission to make some recommendations to council. And I know Mr. James will lift that because he's brought those comments to us in the past, and I look forward to seeing you serving on the board there. I had a couple other comments about activities. This Saturday on the 21st at 6 p.m. is the Downtown Monroe Business Network Craft Beer event. It's downtown on the East Front Street off of Monroe Street. And there's also the bed race, which is the bed race to aid children, is on Sunday, September 22nd at 1:30. It's right in Loringer Square. Been doing it for many, many years, and it's a great program. Nonprofit 501c3 that collects funding, and they get in the race. I'll say chariots, the bed races, and they have fun. It's a fun event. People get dressed up, but it's really to benefit the children that don't have beds. And so please come on down and support them if you can. And also if you wish to see Mr. Kim Hooper, who will be there, or others, if you think there's a place for yourself to assist with that. So those are my comments. No, I have one more comment. I want to thank those here in our city council, Clerk Treasurer Lavoie, Human Resources Director Julie Everly, and our Assistant City Manager Mark Cochran, and of course their City Manager Robinson for supporting the Michigan Municipal League Conference this year. It was last week, and it was very informative. I know that council members have had the opportunity to go through the Michigan Municipal League's Elected Officials Academy, which gives basic foundation. I think it's imperative. And I know Councilman Viney's attended that, and we've had where we learn about process and protocols, Robert's Rules of Order, and how we present ourselves here, but also how we engage with the community. So that was the convention for 2024, and Clerk Treasurer Lavoie received an award for the inaugural, they call it the WELI, which is Women's Elected Leadership Initiative. Intensive. I always say initiative, but it's intensive. And that sounds like a lot, but if you want to know what it is, maybe Michelle will talk about it, but you can find it on the Michigan Municipal League. But that is for elected officials, where they have another one called Project 1650 is for appointed officials. And I'm a little bit ahead here, but Dr. Everly did successfully achieve that training session as well. And her due and recognition will come at the Capitol Conference in the spring. So those are things in which your council are engaged in about training and learning and working together. And I just wanted to share that. So that's my comments. Clerk Treasurer Lavoie.
Yeah, it was called intensive because it was intense. It was
It was.
6 or 7 weeks every Thursday after hours. It was in the evening so that all the elected officials would be able to attend. And we learned about everything from government finance and accounting to economic development opportunities and communication, et cetera. And it was female leaders across the state elected leaders. So it was really a wonderful opportunity. And I've already been able to bring some of that, what I learned, not just with the classwork, but from the other elected officials that were part of that, back to the department that I'm fortunate to lead, and hope to continue to take advantage of some of the other classes. So thank you for mentioning that. The only other comment I have is that we're continuing to collect applications for ballots. The ballots will go out September 26th. So if you would like an absentee ballot, you can certainly receive that. And just a reminder that if you receive an absentee ballot, it doesn't preclude you from actually bringing it either to early voting or on election day to the precinct and putting it into the tabulator yourself. So it's, you still have options even if you ask for it. It doesn't lock you into one form of voting. Other than that, we'll have some educational information out about the elections on social media, and the tax season is officially over for now in the city of Monroe, and winter taxes will come out in December. So that's it.
Thank you. City Manager Robinson, comments this evening.
Well, first of all, again, I'd also like to congratulate Mr. Elliott James. He's a fixture at these council meetings, and I do have to say we have some very good conversations at times, and I appreciate his insight because he's definitely somebody who's not afraid to tell me if he thinks we need to be doing something different. And I do, and he does it in a very kind but directed way, and it's great. And I appreciate them, and I'm really glad to see that you're taking the time to actually invest your time into something, into a city commission, and being willing to do that, because I think it says a lot about who you are and what you can contribute to the city, and I appreciate that. Second, as we were talking about the Michigan Municipal League, what the mayor did forget to mention is the fact that he successfully completed his term as the president of the Michigan Municipal League. And being up there, and those of us that were up there can definitely say he represented this city very, very well in his term. It wasn't just the conventions, it wasn't just those things, it's the everyday stuff that he did, the business of the Michigan Municipal League, which is so important on so many levels to help local governments throughout the state. And having had a chance to meet many of the other city managers and elected officials around the state, I thought it was uncanny, because everybody knows Mayor Bob. Everybody knows him, and he really made us proud to be part of the Monroe team and celebrating his successful term. It was excellent. And my last comment, I've been asked by Dr. Everly to remind you about the city manager evaluation Q3 check-in that I'm sure she'll be emailing you again as a reminder, but I thought I would remind you of that. That's all.
Thank you. Next is citizens' comments, and if there's those present here this evening that wish to have comments, just mindful of the rules of the chamber, please step forward, say your name, jurisdiction of residence, and allotment of 3 minutes. And so any comments from those present here this evening? Yes, sir, please step forward. Name, please, and jurisdiction.
Honorable Mayor and esteemed council members, my name is Greg Drudy, D-R-U-D-I. I live at 410 Avenue de Lafayette, Monroe, Michigan. I want to thank Mr. Robinson, Mr. Bennis, and President Hayter for listening to my concerns earlier. And I want to make 3 salient points about the blight ordinance. And first, I'd like to question the nexus to health and safety that recreational vehicles may have, but we went through this, some of you may recall, we went through this 2 years ago. So the first point I want to make is the minute my little 19-foot fishing boat is parked in my driveway, I don't get a 48-hour window, which is what the ordinance says. I get a civil infraction. Plus, I think there's some redundancy in the ordinance. I can move it 10 feet into my neighbor's driveway and keep it there for 47 hours and 59 minutes and move it back and forth. So I think that's frankly quite silly. I haven't decided if I want to do that yet. Secondly, I believe there's some selective enforcement going on. My neighbor who couldn't be here tonight is in full agreement. He's a good friend. He lives directly across the street from me and has a boat in his driveway. It's sat there for the last 2 months, literally sat there for 2 months. There's a lot of construction going down at the end of the street. There's a lot of various city vehicles that go by. I don't know if they're charged with inspecting blight or not, but I do know the day my boat got put in my driveway, both my neighbor and I were given civil infractions. So his could sit for 2 months, no problem. The minute mine sits, we both get clipped. And the third point, I think, is the council, with all due respect, should take a look at compliance process. I put my boat in my driveway Monday night, late in the evening. Tuesday, somebody down here is typing up an infraction. They don't put it in the mail till Thursday. I don't get it till Saturday. I open the mail and it says I have 5 days to abate it. It's literally already past 5 days. I think corrective action should be from the date of postmark or the date of receipt, and then we can fight about what day we got it. But I got to tell you, 2 years ago I went through this, spent my gas, was a little more expensive back 2 years ago than it is today. I will tell you, in case you don't know it, or you can take a ride with me tomorrow. I'm retired. There are trailers, there are recreational vehicles, there are campers, there are jet skis all over this city. And I think if you're going to enforce it, you should enforce it consistently. The minute I bring a utility trailer to my house to clean up stuff, I got a police officer knocking on my door. That's wrong. The day I put a boat in my driveway, Monday, almost night, just before sunset, Tuesday, I'm perch fishing. While I'm perch fishing, an infraction is being typed up. I would like an answer to what's the deal?
So you're at your time to begin with. I'll start there, but I will have some conversation. You've spoken with City Manager Robinson, correct?
I did. I gave him
Okay,
some
so-
specifics.
Okay, then I would say follow up with him again in the timelines which you shared with him prior to the meeting. He'll be able to look at those and see what it is. Obviously, we have many people that are not following the ordinance, and they are, I'll say, contacted, cited just as you have been, because there's others that have shared those comments with me. It's not selective. It's a matter when, whether staff sees it or somebody calls, or somebody puts it on the app, because we have the app, which is My Monroe on the go. Then we can go right on the website and fill out the form and send it in. Sometimes they're done in that fashion. So make sure you see Mr. Robinson. He'll have a follow-up with the timelines that you have to see how it came within the specific date that you are talking about, and we'll see about the 3 items from Mr. Robinson, what he may be making, any suggestions or recommendations on the ordinance.
Thank you, Your Honor, and I respectfully disagree with you.
That's okay.
Do you,
Well, you need to talk to him if you're looking to get I'll say a rescinding of the,
rescinded. I'm
Okay.
worried about due process.
well, the due
If
process
the
is,
ordinance,
okay, we're not going to argue. Your
no,
time
if
is
the
up.
ordinance says I have 48 hours, I have 48 hours. I was given an infraction within less than 48 hours. I just like some clarity around that. Why is that? And yes, I agree with you on the other points.
It is 48 hours, and then when people call or people send it in, you said it wasn't 48 hours. I can't sit here and say.
I have metadata and
Okay,
photos. I'll share
I'm
them
not
with you.
interrupting you. Please don't interrupt me. So it's, if it's not 48 hours, then have a conversation with the manager, say why it wasn't.
I already did that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Tonight, right?
I did it this afternoon with
Okay.
Mr. Bennis. I did it this evening before the meeting started.
Okay,
And
so-
I just think coincidence takes a lot of planning for this to happen to me when other citizens, it's not quite as efficient.
And
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. There is familiarity with the ordinance. I know that. So tomorrow, of course, Mr. Robinson meets with the city staff, and they'll have the opportunity to have a conversation about this. Other comments from those present here this evening in public comment? Yes, sir. Name, please, and jurisdiction of residence.
633 Stone Street. I was still wondering about the presentation for the bridge. Is that in works, and if so, when?
Well, I will have to follow up with Mr. Robinson. I know that was discussed last week or 2 weeks ago at the staff meeting. I don't think Mr. Hayter and I haven't had a chance to follow up either, but we will to see if that's going to be part of it. If not, I guarantee that we will have something this fall, even if we don't get to the level in which we thought we'd be, but it'll be communicated through the city's newsletter, as well as obviously the social media, but we'll probably have an announcement at the next meeting.
All right, and I want to thank the committee, the board, the commissioners for letting me get into the game.
Thank you, sir. All right. Other comments from those present here this evening? Any final public comments? Seeing none, a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Councilman Lamore, supported by Councilwoman Stillgrave to adjourn. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Biding?
Yes.
Lamore? Yes. Hader? Stillgrave? Mayor Clark?
Yes.